Hi, welcome to the One channel. Today uh, we're going to deploy a domain controller. This is my one of virtual machine. And at the first step, I have to configure IP address. So the IP would be normally you can configure from local area connections, properties, and give your IP address. Since my lab has, I have already documented that I wanted to go with 10.0.0.1 as my domain controller, and I can give here 127.0.0.1, which is going to be the local host IP address, and my domain name is lab.com, okay, in short. And then I would assign this IP. Once the IP address is assigned, um, I have to make sure that since this is going to be a domain controller, I wanted to pretty sure that the computer name also should have its standard. So in this case, it's a random name which was created by sysprep. So now what I wanted to do is I wanted to create here a different computer name. Whenever you do the computer name changes, you have to reboot the PC. In my case, this computer is located in India and the site is Hyderabad. Okay, and that is a site code as HYD, and this is going to be domain controller, and my domain controller number is 01. So in my future, I may have more than one, so I give this kind of name standard I can follow. INHYD, this is your one, and I have restarted. So give me a second, it's just restarting. Yeah, then I have to log into the machine. Actions, control dial, my password. Now the computer name is proper. Okay, I can check the machine is in the work group. I can check the IP address, yeah, and the host name, which will show the computer name. Now I can go ahead, run the DC promo, which will create the uh, this machine to promote it to the domain controller. So I should make sure that what's the time zone should be the correct one. So I have the correct time zone, and it is running the a task sequence. Sorry, it is running the Active Directory uh, installation visit. Yeah, so I can go for the advanced mode and click next. Since this is new forest, I can create a new forest, which is called lab.com, and now it has verified the host name, the domain name to the NetBIOS name. In this case, it is found as the lab is the more than sufficient, and this is the security level which you can choose. Since this is my first domain controller, I don't have any domain with any of these operating system versions, so I can choose as 2008 R2 so that I can enjoy all these features like recycle bin and other services. You can go through this. It's a self-explanatory. Okay, in this case, since this is a domain controller require the DNS, that is called domain naming system. uh, so in this case it is not found, so it's going to be installed. That's what this wizard says. Okay, and then it will says that it's going to be taking delegation for the DNS server that can be created. Because of that, authoritative all those records will be created. This is where the Active Directory will be installed, and make sure that these are the folders are very critical. So in real world, if I'm an Active Directory administrator, I would create a separate drives these three folders. But this is, since it's a test lab, I can go ahead and create in a single drive. Okay, and this is a password. And in any case, if you want to restore the directory services, this password would be used. So this is a mandatory password which you have to give, whereas in 2003 it's not mandatory, but here it is mandatory. Now it will run the Active Directory setup, which would take another 1-2 minutes. So if you could see, it's running the schema, all those things, and it will create a required DNS also, and then it secures the DNS server as well as the computer, because it is promoting from workgroup to domain controller. That means it does some of the security policies, stronger. For example, a normal user cannot log into the machine. Okay, now we have finished the Active Directory installation. I could see that Active Directory has installed now as lab.com, and this machine is this since now it is promoted to the Active Directory, and this Active Directory is part of a site called default hyphen fast hyphen site name, where you can manage all these sites and services from sites and services management console. Okay, we'll talk on that later point. Basically, sites and services are useful for the replication of Active Directory different domain controllers. Say example, you have a account, you have Active Directory in Hyderabad as well as in Bangalore site. Both are the different sites, and if they wanted to replicate, the replication can be managed and can be created from the Active Directory sites and services. Okay, it's an administrative tool from administrative tools. Okay, thanks. And I'm going to now restart the machine. After that, I will get the screen for for login of my domain controller. Okay, and yeah, it's just applying. If you see, for the first time, it applies the computer settings because it has promoted to the domain controller. That means it has done some of the security changes. Okay. So now it control del option, and I can press control alt del to login. And if you could see here, it is taking the lab as the domain, and I'm just sharing my password, super secret password, and then I got my desktop back. Okay. Now, once the Active Directory is installed, you will get here all the Active Directory new features. For example, ADSI edit and users and computers, where you create the users and add the computers here, and you can set group policies from the this MMC. And similarly, you have Active Directory domains in trust can be done from here. And also, there's a new with the 2008 called administrative center, which is improved in 2012. Okay, so now we have domain controller, and we can see at the first time the DNS. So once the Active Directory is installed, it actually creates a forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone. So in the forward lookup zone, it creates all the service records which are required uh, for Active Directory. Whereas in the reverse lookup zone, it doesn't create actually. So what we have to do is we have to create the reverse lookup zone also, so that the machines can resolve the host name to IP address by forward lookup zone, but the reverse lookup zone would be responsible for IP address to host name. So here there's no records, but I can see that if I go properties, I can say update the PTR, which will create here a now new record. Okay, so it has created automatically. Now I have a machine called Windows 7. So I want to just check the how can I add to the domain this workgroup machine. So it has a proper name, that's fine, and how to set the IP address. So go to the local area connection properties, and if you look at the IP address is already configured as 10.0.0.101, and the subnet is 255, which is the default for the class A, and the preferred DNS server, because the DNS server which we install on domain controller. So the domain controller IP address is 1. So if I give this name in DNS, so what happens is whenever the host name to IP address or IP address to host name requirement was comes to this machine, it will go and check the records in DNS by using this IP address, because this is responsible for the DNS server. That's what we configure here. And the properties in the DNS, you also have to mention the lab.com, which is the DNS suffix. Okay, so I did that, and I just clicked on okay, and then the next step would be the adding the machine to the domain. So go to my computer properties, and then change computer, change name, and then you give as a lab. It doesn't require the entire name because we have configured the already DNS suffix as lab.com, so it doesn't require to give as here lab.com. So just give as lab and click OK, and type your super secret password, and this should add the machine to the domain. Yeah, so we could see that welcome to the lab.com. Yeah, I click OK. Then it says that you have to restart, otherwise it won't you cannot log into the machine until unless it has restarted. So I'm just restarting my machine. Yeah, I'm just restarting my machine. Yeah, so now it is at control del screen. If I know it here, it's still, pointing to the local PC name slash test as a username, but I don't want to log into the test user as a local user. Okay, I want to log into the domain user. So what I would do is I would click on other change user and other users, and here I give as lab. Otherwise, if I give, for example, administrator, and you look at here lab, this would automatically change to the local machine because there's a user called administrator in that PC also, and the user never logged in. So it treats always as that. So just to make sure that I should log into the domain, I will give always lab backslash administrator, and then the log on to the always comes as lab, and then I would enter my super secret password so that I get my script. So now it is logged into the machine, and you know I can check the user account who I. If I type that, it says that, this is my domain name and I log in as administrator. That's all. So what we have done now, we created a domain controller, we verified DNS, and we create a reverse lookup zone because it will not created by default for the reverse lookup zone, and then we added a mission to the domain. And if you look at the time zone also on the client, it should be, right one all the time. Otherwise, the group policies, all those things will never, apply on this machine. Okay, and if we want to look at domain active directory domain sites and services, this is the window which was talking about when we try to uh, click on finish before DC promo ran. Okay, so or the DC promo completes, I would say. Okay, so this is what the default hyperfile site name it was created. So I must have to rename to my site name called Hyderabad because this domain controller belongs to Hyderabad, and when I say this domain controller and the servers, I could see this is domain control. If you have multiple sites, you start creating from new site, and then it can be Bangalore, or it can be Asia Pac, or it can be China, or it can be Chicago. All those sites can be created, and this specific site has an subnet because otherwise these machines, say example, if I go to the Windows 7 machine, and if I type my you know set L, which will tells my yeah, give me a second, set L. So it says that it has login to the domain controller call, login super call, and HYD. So to get all the policies properly, I must should have associated subnet. Okay, so create a new subnet called 10.0. Okay, 10.0.0.0 and /8. So which is one single 255, and click select as your Hyderabad, and then click OK. So whatever the machine is trying to log in this subnet, that tries to contact this domain controller, and then it checks all the validation will be done. Whatever the read-only data copy is available in the domain controller, that would be taken care. Okay, so this is the the first part of the active directory, I would say, or domain creation part. Okay, and we'll again come back to you with another